Lucky you.
36 best holes in
Into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about
Sandy.
golf, poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script.
Down the stretch they come.
We are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Billy Regan. Last spoke, we were talking about the Ryder Cup USA team, the 6 automatic qualifiers, and then the 6 captains picks. Today, we are going to talk about the Euro Ryder Cup team and Luke Donald's team, etc. Before we get going, though, I'd like to make 2 quick announcements. Let's remember to subscribe to the Alternate Shots podcast. It really helps out the podcast. Getting feedback from you also helps. We're going to give you a little teaser. There's going to be a future podcast about the Ryder Cup. We're hoping to get, planning to get Billy Harmon on here, who's been in a couple of them. And then look for the Atlantic City Country Club. That's going to be in the future, too. That should be very interesting. It's a little different twist. We're taking our golf game up to Atlantic City, right, Billy, in our next podcast.
2 for you, down 2 for me.
Yeah.
But speaking of Atlantic City, you're always going for up.
That's right. That's right. And Atlantic City sometimes meets Philadelphia, and there's a lot of golf lore in Philadelphia. But as we start off today, we're going to be going into the Ryder Cup in a couple of weeks. It's going to be in Roma, Italy, at the Marco Simone, as I'm told is the way to pronounce it, Golf and Country Club. And have you had a chance to think about this Ryder Cup at all, Billy, since we last spoke?
I've been concerned about how good both of these teams are. I shouldn't say concerned, but I can't think of a time in my lifetime. I mean, there were superstars back when, but both of these teams have some serious golfers, serious talent on both sides here. It's going to be, a gladiator fest at the Coliseum.
If you threw a dart at any one of the 24 competitors and several of the captains, you could do a mini series on these guys. And we don't even know anything about the guy you're looking at right here. And many people don't know him. In 2 weeks, everybody's going to know him. But social media knows this guy is Ludvig Aberg. All the young podcasters, the golf experts with the microphone, people have anointed him. He became a professional golfer in June of 2023. He's about 100 and plus in the world rankings, and he was a pick for Luke.
He hasn't even been there for 100 days yet.
That's right. He was a pick. And you said something to me the other day. It seems like there's an agenda here, and I think Luke Donald had this guy in mind to play on the team, to fire up the crowds, to fire up the locker room, the team room, and to fire up some partner. We're going to talk about our partner guesses today, too. And with that wry smile, and that may be the smile that in the second week or end of the first week of October, we're going to understand what that smile means, right?
I think it means, are you kidding me? This can't be, he couldn't have expected this dream to come true this soon. So maybe that's what this kid's got in mind. He's got a little smile here. Maybe he knows he's good enough. I have to assume he's good enough. It's whether or not the Ryder Cup takes the legs out from under him or not, and the pressure. Maybe he's too young and inexperienced to know this is hard. Plus, he's going to have the crowd behind him, and it's interesting to think how much the crowd's going to come into play, because the U.S. has had their issues overseas in this event forever. But I have to believe there might be a tough crowd there.
So they're at least coordinated to this point.
Yeah, they're dressed to caddy at Wingfoot.
That's right. They got the white shirt. Yeah, that's right. Dave Zonen would say, get out on the first East, get Billy Regan and Chip Archer, and don't look back.
And leave the putter in his bag.
We haven't talked about Nikolai Horgard. I don't know if I pronounced his name properly or not, but he was hot. I took him in the British Open. I think he played very, very respectively. I think he's going to be a sleeper they have to worry about.
Do you think they think they're underdogs, aside from location and history, player to player? Do you think the Europeans think that they are underdogs?
I don't think they did until they got on the bus and Luke Donald told them, you're underdogs. I think he did the reverse psychology and said,
well, I think that works sometimes.
Yeah, think you're underdogs until we start having the Asti Spumante or the Grappa on Sunday afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the Ryder Cup European team has been taking a 2-year view of this with a team in mind. Naturally, they thought Rahm. Naturally, they thought Rory and Hovland and those guys would be the makeup of the team, Hatton, Fleetwood. And then they just had to figure out as they got closer who was going to be the other players. Rose has been on the Ryder Cup team. We're going to do a little piece on Rose later on. He was at this Hazeltine Ryder Cup. Now, that's 2016.
Yeah. But they might have expected Hovland to make the team, but I don't think they expected him to do what he's been doing.
That's right. They probably have a system where they see their top 12, 15 guys that they want to have on the team in the last, say, year, 6 months, and see how they bubble up, and then they start slotting them in.
Probably going to pay a lot of attention to how they interact on the bus and everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even get input from the players. I like playing with this guy, I like playing with that guy, this compliment, that compliment, whatever. But I imagine it's natural for anybody to have these guys sort of ranked, like Rahm,
Mm-hmm.
McIlroy, and there's nobody going to unseat Rahm and McIlroy as the top two, no matter what's going on. They've just got too much history. But I got to think Victor Hovland moved up to 3 on everybody's list.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to talk about, Billy, was possible matchups, because 16, 8 points the first day, Friday the 29th of September, and then Saturday the 30th of September, 8 points each day. That's a total of 16 points will be in team play. And team play comprises of what we mostly play in America, which is 4-ball. You and I against 2 other guys, best ball, 4-ball.
Right.
Against the other score. And then the foursomes, very rarely played at most places. I don't know many people talking about, hey, we played foursomes. And that's where European teams, that's where and there's 8 points in foursomes. You can't take it lightly.
And they're accustomed to that format in Europe. So, but these guys can all hit golf balls. So they just, they learn to adjust to a situation. They're all gamers. I have to believe that everybody that ever gets this involved in the game of golf just enjoyed all kinds of games growing up, as the avid golfers we play with do. I'm not going to give the Europeans the edge based on their experience with that, because I think these guys can adjust.
Well, I think they're dealing with a bunch of new players. Hogard, Seb Straka, Ludvig Aberg, McIntyre, those are at least all new. Lowry's played a bunch, and so is Fleetwood, Rory, as I mentioned, Rose. So I think they're going to divide and conquer. I don't know that they're going to let 2 rookies go out there necessarily. I think Rose and McIntyre might get along great. I mean, Rose has been on the team forever. McIntyre, there was a lot of talk. He had to make his way on there. He's not the most outward personality, but that's just my thinking why I put them together.
The interesting thing is if they did send 2 rookies out together, they might lose 1 point, and they'd lose that 1 point. But if they won 1 point, it would be a whole lot more valuable than 1 point to that team.
McIlroy and Aberg might be good, because McIlroy will take him under his wing and help him get through the rough patches in a team competition.
Yeah. Who's going to play with Rahm? Because to me, Rahm is the singular, most individual, standalone player on the tour now.
And I think any one of these guys could play with Rahm. So, like you said before, where do you get the leverage? That's why.
And who will Rahm want to play with? And that's an interesting. Not that he makes the call, but if he has input, who's he asking for?
Yeah, I think he's saying, I'll play with anybody, Captain. I'm easygoing. I think
just tell him not to talk to me.
I think the only one that I'm not sure about will handle the pressure will be Robert McIntyre. Fleetwood, in these kind of things, maybe the next Ian Poulter, where he's knocking in 10, 12, 15, 18 footers all the time. Whereas a lot of times in the majors, he's missing those putts. But in team competition, maybe he turns and he starts making them.
Because Fleetwood is as even keel a player as there is out in the world right now. So yeah, if he just plays at his normal level, match play, the few holes that he blows up on now and then or misses putts on, are negligible in match play. So yeah, he could be a serious, certainly a steady, consistent partner for somebody.
He doesn't need an arm around the shoulder either, nor does Fitzpatrick. They could go out there, play as a team, and each have their own caddy and be
Yep.
and each other on 18. Say, how we do, partner? Oh, we won 3-2.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other guys are gonna, I think Hogard is gonna need, and Straka, and I think Aberg, they're gonna need a little experience with them. So I do expect them to be paired. Like you said,
Yep.
either they're gonna be paired with each other and go out there, like Bambi's first time walking in the woods.
That's what's so great about this event and all kinds of team events like this. That swings.
Yeah.
I mean, big comebacks are started like snowballs going down a hill. Once it starts, everybody else sees it and it incentivizes. It's a great format. A team play. I love the concept of it. Not that I'd want to see it every week, but President's Cup, Ryder's Cup, they're great. Solheim Cup, great viewing, great to watch as a fan.
Yeah, I think this venue is going to lend itself to the entire format as well. There's a lot of things they can use for filler in and around Rome, and
absolutely, yeah.
I hope they give us a good view of the clubhouse that goes back to 1040 AD.
There's nowhere in Rome and a lot of Italy where you're not going to see something worth photographing. And Rome is just, it's like Rome itself is a museum.
Well, let's look at the U.S. team. I just took my shot at what I'm hearing. The easy two are the Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. I think the world would be shocked if they don't play, and Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay. I think you're almost, if you're Zach Johnson, you're flirting with fire around a big gasoline can if you broke those teams up.
I don't think Justin Thomas would be playing if he weren't playing with Jordan Spieth. I think that was a big part of his being selected.
Yeah. Likewise, I think Sam Burns had Scheffler behind him in his camp, and Scheffler said, I'll play with them. They're both from Texas. They vacation together. It's no secret they're good friends. So I put that team right there together. I think Morikawa and Homa both went to school out in California, maybe not at the same time, but the same school. And they're California guys. Both of those guys are awesome players.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying. Scheffler and Burns would be a pretty formidable duo. Sam Burns is an underrated player.
I don't know about the last two teams, Harman, Clark, Fowler, and Koepka. Fowler and Koepka, I don't know if they're good friends here in Jupiter. They might be.
I think I put Harman and Koepka together.
Yeah, that might happen too. Fowler and Clark. I mean, Fowler's pretty long, but Wyndham Clark may be the longest guy on this U.S. team. He's pretty darn long. Rory's the longest on the PGA Tour in 2023 by a few yards. I think you're right. Fowler and Harman.
Koepka and Harman are both, very gritty.
You'd put Koepka and Harman together?
I like that combo, yeah, because they're both, on the grouchy side of life, if from my perspective, from a distant perspective. But neither one of them quits.
Yeah.
We've seen Harman. Harman starts rolling those putts, and Harman's putt was putting lights out. If he keeps that up, and we've seen Koepka do that, and Koepka can certainly stand up to all the pressure. Ryder Cup, President's Cup, majors. I don't know how he's doing on the Live Tour or Care, but everywhere else I've seen him, he's formidable.
Well, we saw him twice this year, the Masters and the PGA, at least, and he performed great. Should have won the Masters. I think it was a focus thing in the Masters.
Inevitable distraction of Live, whether he can put it past it or not. He knew fans were watching him for two reasons. One, some for his performance, and others to see how he would do coming from the Live Tour. It was impossible not to have that in his head somewhere.
If you go back and look at the 72 holes that he played at Augusta, and then the 72 he played in Rochester, he makes a lot of putts. The 10 or 12, 15, 20 footers, 8 footers. That's what kept Poulter on the team so long. He made so many of those putts.
Yeah, Poulter was, one of the MVPs of all time when it came to Ryder Cups.
Yeah, I think these teams, you're right. I think my U.S. team, there's flaws in them. I wouldn't take credit for Spieth and Thomas and Schauffele and Cantley. I think that's easy. But I was listening to some quote unquote experts. It's wide open on the Euro team. There might be some natural pairings like Lowry and Hatton. Hatton's sort of a grumpy guy. Lowry is not grumpy, but he's not talkative.
Yeah, or Rory and Fitzpatrick,
Exactly. Yeah.
Aaron Gobra.
Who's going to be the star of the Euro team? He's going to come up and add 3, maybe 3.5, maybe 4 points to the mix that you don't think right off the top of your head.
Fitzpatrick, maybe. You know, Fitzpatrick's got 2 hot and cold switches there, but when he's hot, I mean, I remember some of the shots he hit this year that, you know, you think he's out of it, and the next thing you know, he's making a birdie. So he could be maybe not so much of a surprise. I don't want to give him less credit than he deserves as a player, but again, he's on a list with marquee players. Rahm and Hovland and McIlroy are all going to be expected to do great.
Who might be fun?
Lowry.
Oh, Lowry, yeah. And I think he's got an awfully straight, solid game for guys a little, let's say, less than tip top. Maybe he's in great shape. But when you look at the way the clothes hang on him, he doesn't look like he's in
It
great.
doesn't look like Bruce Koepka.
No, Brooks Koepka is in great shape.
Don't.
Okay, so this is what it's like. What you're seeing here, for those that you are listening, I'll try to describe it. What you're seeing here is the under walkway, under the stands from the practice area, maybe your putting area. You go under the stands and you pop out onto the first tee. Let's take a look at this. So these stands will hold at least 5,000 people. I asked a buddy of mine who's at Baltusrol, and they're lined up with the PGA. I said, why won't Baltusrol get why don't they have the Ryder Cup? He says, Baltusrol can't hold the Ryder Cup. I said, why not? He says, you need 6,000 seats on the first tee. And if you know Baltusrol, there's not much room. You'd have to take out 25 or 30, 125-year-old trees just to put stands up just for one event that happens at your club once in 100 years. He said, these stands here, so they obviously pick golf courses where there's free and clear on the first tee.
Yeah.
I mean, this first tee here is
What's so interesting about that is, like, they get to watch everybody tee off, but then what happens? Then where do all those fans go? I guess they just sit there and hang out.
Well, the guarantee in a Ryder Cup, so there's 8 matches on Friday, 8 matches on Saturday, and then the 12 singles matches on Sunday. There's a guarantee that you're going to see everybody tee off. So this is a seat that you're going to be guaranteed to see a shot. If you're waiting on the 18th green, you might not see any match get that far.
Yeah, that's true.
I've never been there.
Unlikely,
but
yeah.
Friends of mine that have gone there said, you know, we didn't hang out on the 18th until later on when the match was closed. We got there. So you don't know, but they go out and watch.
Yeah, they leave their seats, and yeah.
But look at the structure on the right, down the right side. It's huge.
Yeah.
Those are corporate tents, and I'm not sure where the 18th hole is, and maybe coming back the other way at Marco Simone. But the pressure.
Maybe Phil Mickelson would understand where those were relative to the 18th tee, I bet.
Yeah, he'd bounce it off looks like a parking garage on the right. So what about the pressure here? I mean, I guess these guys, you know, they just block it out, huh?
I guess they do. But I mean, even if it was COVID and there was nobody there, there's going to be pressure on that first shot. So it's going to sort of get all lumped together. And it's hard to think like them, because there is no chance they're going to hit, a shank or something like that off the tee. They may pull it or yank it or, hit it into the rough, but they're going to blast it.
Yeah.
They're not going to hit a grounder.
It's interesting. The Irish Open that happened this weekend at the K Club, McIlroy was doing fine until he made, a 7 on a hole. So he sprayed it a little bit. So I'm not sure about the form he's bringing right now. That he'll dust it off. But the pressure here is significant, and it just starts here and mounts as you go through the day.
And it's easier to shed a 7 in match play because it's, it's one hole. It's not a cumulative thing, so you won't be happy with making a double or a triple. But you might not even be making it in most of the matches because you'll pick up and move on.
That's right.
So it's a different kind of, I think it's probably a lot easier to put bad holes in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, you hit a 7 in a medal play tournament, it could put you out of it early. In a match play, nothing.
I mean, it can work the other way too. When which happens quite frequently when there's a huge reversal, you look like you got the hole one, and then Spieth holes one out from the 8-inch rough 48 yards away or something like that. It's a great format.
So real quick, as you look into the week after the Ryder Cup and you look back in the USA wins, who's the surprise long shot on the USA team that's in your mind?
Justin Thomas, and he shouldn't be a long shot, but that's, he's like a guy that used to be a 6 and now he's a 16 because he's playing bad. But there's a day where he's going to play like a 6 and everybody's going to complain about it. I think Justin Thomas is going to, based on how he got here and all the rest of it, hopefully he doesn't intense himself out, but I think he's going to perform well. I think he thinks he has to, and I know he's capable of it. So, yeah, if you can get Justin Thomas as an underdog, it's hard to pass that up. Got some great co-captains with all kinds of experience, and a guy like Freddie Couples might be a real calming influence on Justin Thomas.
They're using a little putter. The guy just said 1 million people are watching.
Oh, I got that. Home soil, right?
Can you believe that? And Justin Rose put it up on Twitter. Everybody's really happy. He says, the guy got the better of me. I thought I'd humiliate him. So
that's fantastic.
This is going to be fun. I think the fans in Europe are going to be very tough. They're the 13th team member.
Yeah.
We'll see if we get Billy Harmon on pretty soon to see what his take on this. Billy, this has been great.
Okay, man.
Have a great day.
See you up soon.
Thanks for joining us today.
Billy Harmon.
We really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity.
And please subscribe to the show
Ryder.
And hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon.
icon so you get notified.
Movie classics.
New episodes.
Mark Gable.
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job.
and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.